My family always compared me to my cousin, the golden boy. Last month, he made a huge mistake and everyone turned to me, but my response left them stunned. I've been lurking for years, but finally made an account to post this because I need to get it off my chest before I absolutely lose it. My therapist says I should process these feelings in healthy ways, but honestly, I've asterisked in that noise after what I've been through. So my whole life, and I mean my whole damn life, I've been compared to my cousin, Gregory. We're only 2 years apart, him being 30 and me 28, but you'd think he was the second coming of Steve Jobs the way my family talks about him. From elementary school, when he got better grades than me because his parents hired tutors, while mine said I needed to figure it out myself, to high school, when he was Mr. Popular Quarterback dating the hottest girl while I was the weird computer guy, to college, when he got into some fancy business school while I went to state school for its security, which BTW is a completely legitimate and valuable career path, but try telling my family that. Every single family gathering for 28 years. Remember that time when I was 12 and won a regional coding competition? My dad Manuel barely looked up from his phone while my Uncle Cody spent 15 minutes telling everyone about how Gregory made the winning touchdown in his football game. My mom Charlene just sat there nodding along like the passive enabler she is. And don't get me started on my Aunt Michelle, who basically thinks the sun shines out of Gregory's ass. Remember my college graduation? My parents showed up late because they were at Gregory's apartment, helping him set up for some party to celebrate his first big client. They missed my name being called. I have 0 pictures with my family from my graduation because they were all so tired from helping Golden Boy all day. Sometimes I fantasize about them all begging for my forgiveness. Someday, the only person in my family who's ever been decent to me is my sister, Amy. She's 3 years younger than me, and she's always seen through Gregory's bullshit. She used to text me under the table during family dinners when Gregory was bragging about his latest entrepreneurial venture, or whatever. For the past 5 years, Gregory has been running his own business, something to do with marketing and consulting. Honestly, I've tuned out so many of his boring stories about synergy and disruption that I couldn't tell you exactly what he does. All I know is that my entire family treats him like he's a fucking genius businessman. My dad Manuel constantly asks me why I'm still just working for someone else instead of being my own boss like Gregory, as if my 6-figure salary in cybersecurity means nothing because I don't have a fancy title or whatever. So last month, we had this big family dinner my Aunt Michelle was hosting, and I almost didn't go because I knew it would be the Gregory show as usual. But Amy convinced me, saying she'd lose her mind without me there. The moment I walked in, I could tell something was off. Gregory wasn't holding court in the living room like usual. He wasn't bragging about his latest deal or showing off some expensive watch. Instead, he was sitting quietly at the kitchen table, looking like absolute shit. Red eyes, messy hair, kept checking his phone every 2 seconds. My Aunt Michelle wasn't her usual smug self either. She seemed tense, kept refilling her wine glass. During dinner, it finally came out. Gregory's business is failing, like catastrophically failing. Turns out Mr. Perfect Businessman made some aggressive expansion decision, his words, and now he's bleeding money. He lost their biggest client last week, and 2 of his employees quit. The best part? His business partner, Emery, is threatening to sue him over some decisions he made without consulting anyone. And you know what happened next? My dad Manuel looked straight at me and asked what I thought Gregory should do, as if I somehow owed Golden Boy my expertise after being treated like trash for my entire life. My mom started talking about how family helps family, and my Uncle Cody actually had the audacity to say I should share some of that computer knowledge to help Gregory modernize his business approach. Are you fucking kidding me? I sat there, fork halfway to my mouth, looking at these people who have never supported me, never acknowledged my achievement, never given a single shit about my career, until they suddenly realized I might be useful to their precious Gregory. But here's where it gets good. Instead of telling them all to go to hell, which was my first instinct, I smiled. I actually smiled and said I'd be happy to help. Gregory looked so pathetically grateful that I almost felt bad for him. Almost. Because what they don't know is that I'm not going to help him. I'm going to systematically dismantle what's left of his business and his reputation. I'm going to use every bit of knowledge I have to make sure he experiences the same kind of humiliation and dismissal I've felt my entire life. I've already started. I've been meeting with Gregory to consult on his business issue. I've gained access to his business email. He literally used the same password he's had since high school. What an idiot! And I've been learning everything about his operation, his clients, his vulnerabilities. I've identified the weak points in his client relationships. I know exactly which buttons to push to make his remaining employees question his leadership. Gregory trusts me completely. He thinks I'm his savior, his knight in shining armor coming to rescue him from his bad decision. He has no idea that I'm actually the villain in his story. My plan is working perfectly. Yesterday, I suggested he reach out to a potential client that I know for a fact is looking to cut costs, not add services. He's going to waste hours preparing a pitch that will go nowhere. I also casually mentioned that his business partner Emery had been talking to competitors behind his back. Completely untrue, but Gregory is so paranoid right now, he'll believe anything. The look of betrayal on his face was chef's kiss. And the best part? My family is suddenly treating me like I matter. My dad Manuel called just to check in yesterday. First time in years. He's called without needing something. My Aunt Michelle invited me over for coffee and spent the whole time telling me how smart I've always been. Even my mom has started bragging to her friends about her son, the computer expert. Too little, too late. I know this is going to blow up in my face eventually. I know when they realize what I've done, they'll probably never speak to me again. And honestly, I don't care. 28 years of being treated like I was less than, of having my achievements ignored, of being the family disappointment. They deserve whatever comes next. Amy's the only one who suspects something. She texted me last night asking if I was really helping Gregory or just pretending to. I didn't answer. I love my sister, but she doesn't need to be involved in this. Better she has plausible deniability when it all goes down. So that's where I am now. Meeting with Gregory again tomorrow to review his client outreach strategy. He has no idea that I'm going to suggest approaches that will alienate the few loyal clients he has left. He has no idea that I've been feeding his anxiety about his business partner. He has no idea that every piece of help I offer is actually carefully designed to push him closer to complete failure. And when he crashes and burns for good, I'll be there, watching, finally getting the recognition I deserve, not as the family failure, but as the one person who could have saved Golden Boy but chose not to. We'll update when there's more to share. This is just getting started. Update 1. Wow, didn't expect my first post to blow up like that. Thanks for all the support. And to those saying I'm being petty or need to be the bigger person, try walking in my shoes for 28 years and then come talk to me about forgiveness. It's been 3 weeks since my last update, and let me tell you, my revenge plan is working even better than I expected. Gregory's business is circling the drain, and the best part? He thinks I'm his only hope. The same cousin they all laughed at for being just a computer guy is now the family savior. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife. So here's what's happened since last time. I've been meeting with Gregory twice a week to help with his business issue. I created this whole elaborate spreadsheet system for him to track his clients and finances that looks super professional, but is actually designed to make him focus on all the wrong metrics. He's spending hours inputting data that doesn't matter, while the actually important stuff gets buried in tab 17 of an Excel nightmare. And he's so grateful for it. He literally bought me an expensive bottle of whiskey as a thank you gift last week. I drank it while drafting emails from his account to his 2 biggest remaining clients, subtly suggesting that he might need to raise their rates soon due to market adjustment. Spoiler alert! Both clients emailed back within 24 hours expressing concerns about the partnership. The psychological warfare is even better than the business sabotage. I've been carefully feeding his paranoia about his business partner, Emery. Nothing obvious, just casual mentions, like wondering why Emery was having lunch with a competitor, which I made up, or asking if Gregory had checked the business expense account recently, implying Emery might be misusing funds. Gregory is now completely convinced that Emery is plotting against him and treats him with open suspicion. The other day, Gregory actually called me at 11:30 p.m. having a full-on panic attack about the business. I sat on the phone with him for an hour, pretending to calm him down while actually planting more seeds of doubt. The dude is falling apart, checking his phone constantly, losing sleep, snapping at people. My Aunt Michelle mentioned he's lost weight and looks terrible, all while thanking me for being such a supportive cousin. I should feel bad, but honestly, I'm enjoying every second of this. Last week was our monthly family dinner, and the difference in how everyone treated me was insane. My dad, Manuel, who has spent my entire life comparing me unfavorably to Gregory, actually bragged to everyone about how I'm helping Gregory modernize his business approach. My uncle Cody kept asking me questions about my job and acting like he's always been interested in technology. Even my mom, Charlene, who has never stood up for me once in 28 years, told my Aunt Michelle to let Benjamin finish when she tried to interrupt me. Meanwhile, Gregory looked like absolute trash. Dark circles under his eyes, clothes wrinkled like he slept in them, constantly checking his phone and jumping whenever it buzzed. He barely ate anything and kept excusing himself to make calls. At one point, I heard him in the hallway practically begging someone not to make any decisions until next week. The best moment? When my Aunt Michelle started her usual routine of praising Gregory, talking about how he's just going through a rough patch, but he'll bounce back stronger than ever because he always does. Gregory actually snapped at her, told her to stop putting so much pressure on him, and stormed out of the room. You could have heard a pin drop. In 28 years, I have never seen Golden Boy be anything but perfectly respectful to his mommy. My sister Amy cornered me in the kitchen afterward. She knows something's up. She doesn't know exactly what I'm doing, but she knows I'm not actually helping Gregory. She kept giving me these looks during dinner, especially when Gregory was freaking out about his phone. After everyone left the kitchen, she told me she could tell I was enjoying watching Gregory squirm a little too much. I just shrugged and said, "Karma's a bitch." She didn't push it, but I could tell she's not entirely comfortable with whatever she thinks I'm doing. Whatever. Amy can judge all she wants, but she wasn't the one who had to sit through 2 decades of family gatherings being treated like Gregory's unsuccessful shadow. The revenge is getting better every day. Last week, I created a fake email account that looks like it's from a dissatisfied former client. I sent Gregory a long, detailed complaint about how his unprofessional behavior and failure to deliver on promises had cost their business thousands. I made it just vague enough that he wouldn't be able to figure out which client it supposedly came from, but specific enough to seem legitimate. He forwarded it to me in a panic, and I pretended to be just as confused and concerned as he was. I suggested he might need to reach out to all his former clients to address potential issues, which will only make him look desperate and incompetent. I also accidentally CC'd Emery on an email where Gregory was questioning some of Emery's decisions. Gregory had sent it to me in confidence, asking for my opinion before he confronted Emery. Oops, my bad. Now they're barely speaking to each other except through terse emails that I get copied on. The partnership is completely falling apart, and all I had to do was press send. The financial pressure is mounting too. Gregory mentioned that he's having trouble making rent on his fancy apartment. He tried to casually ask if I would consider investing in the business. I told him I'd think about it, but I needed to see all the financial records first. He gave me complete access to everything: bank statements, credit card bills, client contracts, everything. It's a goldmine of information I can use against him. After looking through his finances, I suggested he might need to streamline operations and reduce overhead immediately. I helped him draft a really poorly worded email to his remaining staff about potential compensation adjustment, aka pay cuts. Two more employees quit the next day. Gregory called me crying, actually crying, saying he didn't know what he did wrong. I told him it was probably just bad timing and not to worry about. My therapist would absolutely lose her mind if she knew what I was doing. During our session yesterday, she asked how things were going with my family, and I just said things were improving and that I was finding closure in unexpected ways. Not technically lies, right? Last night, things reached a new level. We had an impromptu family gathering at my parents' house, supposedly just a casual Sunday dinner, but really an excuse for everyone to check on Gregory's deteriorating mental state. He showed up an hour late, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His hands were actually shaking as he tried to eat. During dinner, someone's phone buzzed, and Gregory literally jumped so hard he knocked over his water glass. While everyone was cleaning up the mess, he checked his own phone and suddenly went completely pale. He excused himself and practically ran outside. I knew exactly what had happened. Earlier that day, I had used his business email to send a message to their largest remaining client, telling them that due to internal restructuring, they might experience service interruptions in the coming weeks. The client replied, while we were at dinner, saying they were going to have to reconsider the relationship if that was the case. Gregory was outside frantically trying to backpedal and save the account. When he came back inside, he looked defeated. My Uncle Cody asked if everything was okay, and Gregory just stared blankly at the table for a few seconds before mumbling something about work issues. Then he looked directly at me and asked if we could talk privately after dinner. In the backyard, Gregory completely broke down, sobbing, hyperventilating, the works. He told me he's lost almost all his clients. His business partner is threatening legal action. He can't make payroll next week, and he has no idea how everything went wrong so fast. He begged me, literally begged me, to help him figure out what he's doing wrong. And what did I do? I put my arm around his shoulders, told him everything would be okay, and promised to come to his office tomorrow to help him sort everything out. The grateful look on his face almost made me reconsider what I'm doing. Almost. Because then we went back inside, and my dad immediately asked Gregory if he was okay, completely ignoring the fact that I had clearly been comforting him. My Aunt Michelle started talking about how when Gregory was in high school, he overcame a bad grade in chemistry by studying harder than anyone else, so she knows he can overcome this too. And my Uncle Cody started giving Gregory business advice, the same tired cliches he's been spouting since I was a kid, the same advice he never once offered to me when I was starting my career. Just like that, any second thoughts I had evaporated. 28 years of being treated like I was worth less than Gregory can't be erased by a few weeks of them pretending to respect me just because they think I can fix Golden Boy's problem. Tomorrow, I'm going to his office to help him. What he doesn't know is that I've already drafted resignation emails to his remaining staff, prepared a spreadsheet showing the business is essentially bankrupt, and compiled a list of all the clients who have left with their reasons for leaving. Hint, they all have to do with Gregory's leadership decisions that I subtly influenced. The grand finale is coming. Gregory is hanging by a thread, and I'm about to cut it. I'll update again when it's all over. From the look in his eyes tonight, that won't be long. Update 2. It's finally over. My revenge plan worked better than I could have ever imagined, and I'm still processing everything that happened. For those just joining this saga, check my post history for parts 1 and 2. But the TL.dr is that my Golden Boy cousin Gregory's business imploded, and instead of helping him like my family expected, I systematically ensured his complete downfall. First off, thanks for all the DMs and comments on my last post. To the people saying I went too far, 28 years of psychological torture deserves consequences. I didn't make Gregory do anything. I just helped expose who he really is. And to those asking if I feel guilty now that it's all over, not one bit. So when I left off last time, I was about to meet Gregory at his office for what he thought was a rescue mission, but what I knew would be the final nail in his coffin. I showed up that morning with a coffee for each of us, acting like the supportive cousin everyone suddenly believed me to be. Walking into his office was surreal. Half-empty desks, papers everywhere, that desperate energy of a sinking ship. Gregory looked like he hadn't slept in days. Unshaven, same clothes as the day before. Dark circles so pronounced they looked like bruises. His remaining two employees barely looked up when I walked in. They were clearly already mentally checked out. I later found out they'd both already accepted jobs elsewhere and were just waiting for the right moment to quit. Turns out my accidental email about payroll issues had them updating their LinkedIn profiles within hours. Gregory led me to his office, which used to be this showpiece he'd brag about at family gatherings. All floor-to-ceiling windows and expensive furniture, now cluttered with empty energy drink cans and takeout containers. The whiteboard that once displayed his vision was now covered in frantic notes and declining numbers. It was honestly pathetic. For 3 hours, I sat with him going through everything: client lists, financials, staff issues. With each topic, I carefully pointed out how dire things were, while simultaneously making it seem like it wasn't entirely his fault. I needed him completely broken, but still trusting me. The whole time I was taking notes on my laptop, pretending to draft a recovery plan, when I was actually documenting every mistake he'd made, both real ones and ones I'd engineered, for what would come later. Around lunchtime, Gregory got a call from Emery, his business partner. I could hear Emery's voice through the phone. He was pissed. Apparently, the accidentally forwarded emails I'd sent had created such a rift between them that Emery had consulted a lawyer about dissolving their partnership. Gregory kept trying to explain himself, getting more desperate by the minute. I sat there pretending to work on his recovery plan while watching him unravel in real time. After the call, Gregory put his head in his hands and just sat there silently for almost a full minute. Then he looked up at me with these desperate eyes and asked if there was any way to save the business. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. I closed my laptop, took a deep breath and told him no. Told him the business was beyond saving. Told him he should start preparing to declare bankruptcy. The look on his face, I wish I could have taken a picture. Complete devastation. 28 years of being told he was perfect, special, destined for success, all crashing down around him in that moment. Then came the twist I hadn't planned for. Gregory didn't get angry or defensive. Instead, he broke down completely, started sobbing at his desk, saying he'd failed everyone, that he didn't know how to tell his parents, that he felt like his entire identity was wrapped up in being successful. For a split second, literally just a split second, I almost felt bad for him. But then I remembered. I remembered my 16th birthday when my parents skipped my small dinner to attend Gregory's basketball game. I remembered college graduation when my dad asked why my GPA wasn't as high as Gregory's. I remembered last Thanksgiving when my Aunt Michelle spent 20 minutes talking about Gregory's business acumen, while my mom nodded along, neither of them acknowledging my recent promotion. So instead of comforting him, I did something better. I told him I needed to show him something, and I turned my laptop screen toward him. On it was a document titled Operation Golden Boy Falls, with detailed notes of everything I'd done over the past month to sabotage his business. The fake emails, the bad advice, the strategic accident, everything. Gregory stared at the screen, not comprehending at first. Then his expression changed from confusion to disbelief to rage in about 10 seconds flat. He started yelling, asking why I would do this to him. What had he ever done to deserve this? I just sat there calmly, letting him rant. When he finally ran out of steam, I smiled. Actually smiled. And told him this was 28 years in the making. I laid it all out for him. Every slight, every comparison, every time he'd stood by while our family treated me like I was worthless compared to him, every family gathering where he'd soaked up praise while my achievements were ignored. Every time he could have said something, could have deflected attention, could have acknowledged me, but didn't. The kicker? He tried to claim he had no idea. Said he never noticed how they treated me, that he always thought I was doing fine, that he actually looked up to me for my skills. Typical gaslighting BS. I pulled out my phone and showed him screenshots of texts he'd sent me over the years, condescending messages about my cute little job, and asking if I was ever going to do something impressive. His face when he saw his own words thrown back at him was priceless. I told him I was done with the conversation and got up to leave. As I reached the door, I turned back and took one last look at the golden boy, sitting in his failing business, surrounded by the consequences of his own mediocrity finally exposed. I told him I'd see him at the next family dinner, if he had the guts to show up. But the real showdown came 3 days later. My sister Amy texted me that morning saying something big was happening at our parents' house and I needed to come over ASAP. When I got there, the whole family was assembled in the living room like some kind of intervention. My parents, Manuel and Charlene, looking grim, my Aunt Michelle with puffy eyes like she'd been crying, my Uncle Cody pacing back and forth, and Gregory sitting on the couch staring at the floor. The moment I walked in, everyone turned to look at me. Amy was the only one who seemed confused. Everyone else had varying expressions of anger and disbelief. Gregory had clearly told them everything, and it was glorious. For the next hour I sat there while they all took turns telling me how disappointed they were, how they couldn't believe I would do something so cruel to family, how they'd always thought I was better than this. My Aunt Michelle actually had the audacity to say she'd always treated me like a son, the same woman who once forgot my name when introducing me to a friend. I let them all finish. Every last self-righteous, hypocritical word. I didn't interrupt once. I just sat there, nodding occasionally, even smiling a little, which I could tell was making them even more angry. When they finally ran out of steam, I pulled out my phone. I had come prepared. I opened my notes app and started reading out loud. Dates, times, and exact quotes of things they'd said to me over the years. 28 years of receipts. The time my dad told me I'd never amount to anything like Gregory, the time my Aunt Michelle introduced Gregory as our family's success story at a reunion, the time my Uncle Cody asked if I was still playing with computers when I told him about a major project I was working on. With each example, I watched their faces change, from righteous anger to discomfort to shame. My mom started crying silently. My dad couldn't look me in the eye. My aunt and uncle kept trying to interrupt with excuses, but I just kept going, my voice getting louder with each example. I finished by telling them that Gregory's business failing wasn't my fault. I just helped speed up the inevitable. He made bad decisions long before I got involved. The foundation was already cracked. I just gave it a little push. If he'd been half as brilliant as they all thought he was, he would have seen through my sabotage immediately. Then I looked directly at Gregory and told him something I'd been waiting years to say, that he was mediocre, that without his cheerleading squad of enablers, he was just an average guy who talked a good game but couldn't deliver, that while I'd been building actual skills and knowledge, he'd been coasting on family praise and connections. The room was so quiet you could hear the refrigerator humming from the kitchen. No one knew what to say. After 28 years of them talking and me listening, I'd finally silenced them all. Then my sister Amy, who had been sitting there in shock this whole time, got up and stood next to me. She looked at our family and told them I was right, that she'd watched this dynamic play out our entire lives and been too young or too scared to say anything, that she wasn't surprised I'd finally snapped after how they'd treated me. One by one, they started with the apologies and excuses. My dad, Manuel, claiming he was just trying to motivate me all those years. My mom, Charlene, crying about how she never realized how it looked from my perspective. My Aunt Michelle insisting she'd always been proud of me too, just in a different way. My Uncle Cody trying to laugh it off as just how families are, and saying I was being too sensitive. Gregory just sat there, staring at me with this mixture of hatred and, surprisingly, respect. Like he was seeing me for the first time. I ignored them all, picked up my stuff, and told them I was going home. I said they could text me when they were ready to have a real conversation about how things would be different going forward, if I decided I even wanted them in my life anymore. As I was leaving, my dad tried to stop me. grabbing my arm and saying something about family sticking together. I looked him dead in the eye and told him they hadn't stuck with me for 28 years, so why start now? He let go like my arm had burned him. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, my phone has been blowing up with texts and calls from all of them. My mom sends these long, rambling apologies every few days. My Aunt Michelle tried to drop off a gift basket at my apartment. I didn't answer the door. My Uncle Cody has called 17 times. Gregory hasn't reached out at all. Last I heard from Amy, he moved back in with his parents and barely leaves his room. Amy is the only one I've been talking to. She comes over for dinner once a week, and we've actually gotten closer through all this. She told me yesterday that the family dynamics have completely shifted. No one mentions Gregory's business anymore, and they're all walking on eggshells around each other, trying to process what happened. The revenge is complete, and it's so much more satisfying than I imagined. Not because Gregory's business failed, though that is pretty sweet, but because I finally forced them all to see the truth they've been ignoring for decades. They can't pretend anymore. They can't rewrite history. They have to sit with the knowledge that their golden boy was nothing special and that their treatment of me had consequences. Will I eventually let them back into my life? Maybe, on my terms, with clear boundaries and expectations. Or maybe not. I've discovered I don't actually need them as much as I thought I did. The power balance has shifted permanently, and that feels better than any apology ever could. I've archived all the evidence of my sabotage, screenshots, emails, notes, just in case anyone tries to deny what happened later. But, honestly, I don't think they will. The family myth is shattered, and there's no putting it back together. My therapist still doesn't know the full story, though I think she suspects something from the way I've been talking in our sessions. Yesterday, she said something about how revenge often hurts the avenger as much as the target. Maybe she's right. Maybe one day I'll regret what I did. But right now I feel like I can finally breathe after 28 years of having my family's boot on my neck.